as a school owner, how much time are you and mental energy are you spending on this one problem family that you could be spending on making more money in your business?
There's so much stuff that you don't understand because you haven't been focusing on that part of it.
Everybody wants to ignore location, 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 but it's so important. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Jennifer Waters podcast. I'm joined by my amazing and awesome co-host, my dad, Tommy Siegler.
Good to be here.
This is going to be a great one.
Oh yeah, it's always going to be a great one.
Yeah, we've got some interesting things to talk about today, including some what I feel like are some hot button topics.
Hot button.
Yes.
Yeah, I like
when
those.
it concerns business, because I've been talking to a lot of different school owners, a lot of different academy owners, and this podcast exists to really help school and academy owners grow. And one of the main concerns and issues that people have is this dichotomy experience that they have where they feel like they have to make sure that they're being the best educator, teacher, instructor, coach that they are, but they also are dealing with this, I need to run a business. And I know we, with our schools, went through a huge transformation.
Oh yeah.
That allowed us to become a 7-figure school. And so I've got some thoughts on this, on why people just maybe have a hard time thinking about that. But what's like the old school reason that you think that some people have trouble switching out of that I'm a great teacher to I should just be equally as great in business?
Well, I'm going to speak for myself.
Okay.
And then because I think there's a lot of people that are my age or not quite my age that ran into the same thing, or that the younger people are running into the same thing. They have skills in one area. They're skilled in martial arts. This was their passion. That's what they wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach martial arts. So I started a school. But I didn't know anything about business. I just didn't. I didn't even think about it. Oh, what do I need to do? Well, you're going to sign this lease. You got to do this. You got to have that. Oh, I didn't even know that. Oh, yeah. Do I need to get a lawyer? Well, it might be a good idea to have a lawyer look at it. Oh, my gosh, you got to be kidding me. You know, you don't know.
All the unknown stuff that you just weren't thinking about.
There's so much stuff that you don't understand because you haven't been focusing on that part of it.
Right.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's a big deal.
You know, when I'm talking to a lot of school owners, they understand that they need to, a lot of them understand, like, okay, it's a business, I'm trying to make money. Every now and then, especially on these Facebook groups, sometimes that I'm in, I'll get somebody who's like, will make a comment and say, well, you shouldn't be running a school if you're trying to run it for profit. Like, you should just break even and barely do that. And my belief is that, okay, if you're barely breaking even, that means you're barely paying your bills. And if you're barely paying your bills, how could you ever save money to invest into your facility or invest in other people? Or what if somebody comes up with a situation like we've had with students and they literally say, my entire house burned down, I have nothing. And what do? You just say, well, I'm sorry, I hope you do okay. But if you're sitting on cash because you have a profitable business, you can actually have an impact. So was there ever, for you, I don't know, I've always, obviously, when I stepped into it, it was like, we got to make this thing work. So that was my mindset from the get. But like, did you ever go through that where transition that you had to go from of like, well, we could make more money and be more successful, or we could just keep breaking even? Like, I don't know what your thought was on that.
My martial arts experience back in the day was my instructors they weren't professional martial arts schools. They were ex-military guys, and they knew martial arts. They wanted to have schools because it was something for them to do. They liked it, and they liked it. Yeah, they made a little bit of money, but it wasn't about the money for them. That's a whole different category. That's like volunteering somewhere to help the community. That's what they were doing, and they were trying to break even on the rent and things of that nature. But it was never about that for them. Now, as I trained in different places, it was more about the running the school for making a profit and being able to do things in that manner. So I went from the mindset of, well, I'm just here, as long as we're paying the rent, we can do what we want, and, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Until, you get to the point where you go, well, you know what, if I was making more money, I could afford to have a better place, or I could fix this place up, or I could move out of the old house that I'm in that has holes in the wall that you could see through, that was behind a flower shop, and we could actually have a school that has heat.
Yeah.
Or air conditioning.
Or air.
So
yeah.
it's like, oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Yeah, I definitely see that, and it's kind of crazy because when I try to engage with those types of people that are in these groups, it's somewhat like talking to a wall, because no matter what I say, nothing is penetrating through.
You won't. I mean, there's two ways to look at it. I always say you can't fix stupid. And some of them are just stupid. They want the best of both worlds. They want to be able to have a school. They want to make it profit, but yet they don't want to charge. That don't even make sense.
Yeah.
That makes no sense for it. So you got to be able to charge, and you got to be able to charge what you're worth. When I was training with Master Carlos Machado, I did tons of private lessons with him over the years, and they weren't cheap.
Right.
They were not cheap.
Yeah.
So private lessons are very expensive, but the value was there. I saw the value in what he had that I didn't have. It's the same thing when you get into the business side of it. If you see that you are lacking in these areas of the business side, you don't know how to do this. You want the business to grow, but you don't know how to make it grow because up until a certain point, you've been doing okay, but now you want to grow it to where you're taking profit and you're able to help other people and you're able to scholarship people and things like that. So you got to raise your prices. You've got to be able to do that stuff so that it's better for you and it's better for the students.
And the other side of it is if you're in a constant state of stress because the business isn't working the way that you wanted to, that passes along to whoever that you're interacting with, the parents, the students,
right.
the community at large, because you're just constantly in this fight or flight mode, because how am I going to do this? How am I going to make it? And then you mentioned charging what you're worth. That's also one of the things that I think, no matter whether we're talking to martial arts or music schools or dance schools,
right.
or extracurricular tutoring schools, a lot with the tutoring schools and even private schools and micro schools, a lot of times what happens is they go, well, I can't possibly charge more because my competitor who's up the street charges, let's just say $100 less than me. So how could I charge that? And then what they end up doing is trying to lower their standards, lower their prices to match someone else. And so what I've always been a proponent of is that you need to be a unicorn. Like there's no one else out there to compare to.
Right. Yeah, you got to be. Just charge what you want to charge, and there's no saying the market will tell you what you need to charge, something like that. And if you're charging too high a price, you're not going to get the students that you need in here.
Yeah.
We do group intros. We have people go, I can't afford it, and they leave. We have other people that are sitting in that same group intro, and they go ahead and sign up. Some of them paying full.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing that's been really helpful for a lot of people is just been going, at least for me, when I was like, okay, well, what should we charge? Because obviously with locations are expanding, like what should we charge in the areas? And I started doing research on just different types of businesses, and I realized that 10% of an average household income goes to extracurriculars or in the space of education or fitness or
bowling.
yeah, just anything that's extracurricular. 10% of the average household income is going to be spent towards that. And so you go, okay, well, if 10% is going to be spent towards that, let's break up that 10% into some categories. If you take something that's going to be a once a week or a twice a week activity, it's not going to take up all 10% because.
Well, maybe we can make it do that for us.
Yeah. But because there's multiple children in the family and there's parents that are also involved. And that also was lumping in additional education, you might have martial arts, you might have swimming, you might have tutoring, and you might have some sort of private school all within that 10%. So
right, or you may have speech therapy,
or occupational therapy, or
your kids
counseling or something like that.
All of a sudden, your kids may need braces.
Yeah, and so this additional household income, this 10%, that's specifically for extracurriculars, not necessarily for medical or things like that, but this 10%. You're only going to get a slice of that. And so what I've found after doing lots of research is it's between 2 to 3% for extracurriculars such as skill building extracurriculars. So we're talking about martial arts or gymnastics or cheerleading or dance, or just you're building a skill set that is not necessary, so to speak, for life, right? It's not an essential. And then you start getting into things like tutoring or after school care, and that's when it increases quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Because people are willing to pay for those things because they need them. So that's more of a need
than it is a want.
Than a want. So you're looking at, okay, where's the bottom on that? And where I see the bottom being from my research is between 4%, 3 to 4%. That's really low. That's 1% on the extracurriculars, but 4%, and then about you can go up to about 7%, 8% that of an average household income will be spent on that. And then you start going to private schools, and private schools bleeds over into the education sector, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
It's alternative education, so you're looking at anywhere from 8% to 15% of an average household income. And so then you start going, well, it's really important to figure out what my average household income is.
Very much.
And then you get into a situation of maybe I shouldn't be here in this town, which you made a huge decision before we ever knew this back in the day, because we did not live in Augusta, Georgia until 20 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
We moved over. But previous to that, when you first opened the school, you didn't live in Augusta.
No, lived in South Carolina.
Yeah, in North Augusta.
North Augusta.
So why did you choose to have a school on the Augusta side of the river instead of North Augusta?
Well, I had a friend of mine who had a school in North Augusta. And so I told him, he asked me one thing. He said, because when I moved here, I had known him from another school. And he said, come in, work out with us all you want. Do me a favor, just don't open a school up competing against me. And I told him I wouldn't do it, and I never did.
Yeah.
And he's deceased now. So now we're in North Augusta.
Right. And did any of the economic situation, did you recognize back then that North Augusta was it's not as small now, definitely not, but did you recognize back then that the household income and the
No.
all that stuff?
No. I knew.
I was trying to give you credit.
No. Don't give me credit where credit is not due. I'm not that. I've been hitting the head too many times. So, but what I did recognize was that Augusta was bigger.
It was just a bigger city.
It was a bigger place, and there were more opportunities, because where you have a bunch of people living, obviously, you don't want to open a school in. I don't want to open a school where we live right now, out in Deering, Georgia.
Yeah.
There ain't nobody out there but us, just about.
Right.
But moving into a bigger area, you see other things. And I wouldn't even open that first school. It was a 1,200 square foot school, because at the time I was teaching subcontracting from a ballet school, 2 classes a night, and I didn't teach kids.
Right.
Yeah, and you were running around in there, and so I figured I'd better start teaching kids.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the parents at the ballet school said, "Does he teach kids? We have
Right.
little boys. They want to do karate."
They don't want to do ballet.
So I started teaching kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think that a lot of people underestimate and struggle. They struggle. This is where I see like some people really struggle with going, I opened up my school in my hometown, but why are other people more successful than me? Because I'm doing all the same things as other people, but the other people are more successful. And I think everybody wants to ignore location, 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 but it's so important.
yeah, it is. And the other thing to that is too, it's very hard. In It's very hard to open a business in a town where everybody knows you and they saw you growing up. Like if I were to try to do this back in the town I grew up in Monk's Corner, I wouldn't have had any students because everybody knew me.
They wouldn't have believed in you.
They would not have believed in me because they saw everything that I did right and everything that I did wrong, living in that little town. But when someone comes into town that nobody knows, then it's like, oh, the circus is in town. Especially if you do the right advertising and things that we do to draw people's attention to our business, it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
Yeah. When you're looking at, and when we're looking at locations and opening up locations, I know obviously the location itself is a huge important factor. Obviously the team that we're going to put into there. But I was on a call the other day with one of our boardroom clients inside of our 7-figure dojo program. And obviously for those of you that are watching, it's our small inner circle. We keep it like 20 people or less because we really pour a lot into their businesses,
Right,
and they have levels of access to us that everybody else doesn't have. And so when I was talking with this particular person, it was kind of like a catch-22. There was a family that was in their school that is just very toxic. And this family, rather large, so contributes a good chunk of revenue to the school itself, right? And, I remember us being in this position before as well where it's like, gosh, we need the money coming in, but we have this family that is not helpful.
Yes, I remember several families like that.
Yeah.
They were not helpful.
We might end up having them comment in the comments at some point. But so, I mean, I obviously gave my opinion to this person of what I thought. And I know we had to grow into this. If someone's sitting there and they're going, gosh, I have a family in my school, but I need the money, but I constantly have to deal with them. I constantly have to do this. What's your thoughts on helping someone kind of get through how to get this family to function better inside their school?
Well, I mean, there's several things you can do. And the first thing you have to do is you have to address the problem with them. You say, hey, look, I'm going to be honest with you. You are always up at my front desk. You're always asking questions, and we don't mind answering your questions. But you're not connected with us. You don't read our emails. You don't look at the things we put up on our bulletin boards and things. You're always asking the questions that everybody else already knows the answers to because you're not bought in. You're not with us 100%. Well, I got all kind of stuff going on. I said, I know you got stuff going on, but we do too. And they keep doing that kind of stuff, and it gets to a point where you've already talked to them. It gets to the point where you have to pull them off to the side again, and you have to say, I think we're going to have to part ways, and I'm not going.
Part ways, and I'm not going.
You're going to have to leave.
Yeah.
And we've had that little quick story. We had these kids, and they were in our program, and the parents always gave the front desk ladies always give them a hard time. And so you expect people to ask questions. You expect people sometimes to be dissatisfied with something, and you try to fix it. But these people were always aggravating them at the front desk. It was like a daily thing, like, oh my goodness, here they come again. So I told them, I said, look, let me know next time they come up here. Well, that I was on the mat teaching. But when I switched out and I got off the mat for a couple of minutes, at the end of the night, the girls, two of the girls at the front desk were crying. And I went, what is going on with y'all? And they were telling me about these same people. Mm-hmm. They're supposed to test for their black belt. This was like a Wednesday or a Thursday. They were supposed to test for their black belt Saturday. For their black belt. They've been there for 4 years. We put up with them and appeased them for 4 years. I said, find me that phone number. I called them up, told them who I was. Of course, they knew who I was. I said, look, I'm done. You're not doing my ladies like this. You're not going to make the people that work here cry because you have things that are unreasonable that you want. I said, so the boys aren't testing. Y'all, I don't want to ever see you back up here again. We'll go through the numbers. We owe y'all some money. We'll send you a check. Goodbye. Click.
Yeah. Because sometimes it's just not, it's not worth the pain. And some of the other boardroom clients were like, hey, to this particular other client, boardroom member, were like, hey, you don't realize how many people are watching this family and going, I don't want anything to do with that. Because
exactly.
One of the other boardroom clients said he fired a family member, and as soon as he fired that one of his other students came up and said, I've been waiting to tell other people about this school, but I didn't want to tell them about this school because of that kid that was in the class, because I knew that kid was trouble.
Yep.
And then he said, literally, he fired that family, and he had 3 families replace that one family just because no one wanted to deal with that family. Yeah. And then one of the other boardroom members said, hey, if you're feeling this, other families are already feeling this inside your school.
More than before you are, because they're already having to put up with their banter because they're sitting in the cheap seats watching the action going on the mat.
Yeah.
And so people are moaning and groaning, in the seats. They're, on their phones, or they're talking to each other, some things like that. And, it's just bad. It's just real bad.
And I mean, there is a level, obviously, where, you're trying to serve people that may not understand your culture. Because I think there is a lot that some school owners will make the excuse and just say, well, these people are just stupid and I'm going to go ahead and kick them out and all this stuff. And the reality is you didn't do a great job of setting up expectations from the beginning. That's why having a consistent roadmap as people come into your new student journey, and revealing the expectations, because it's like learning a new language. It's like immersing yourself into something new because it's a school. So you're learning a school. And I think in the way that the culture works. So if you don't have those things set up, I wouldn't just say like go in and fire everybody who's not abiding by your rules. But, we're talking about the habitual people that you keep mentioning their name in every single meeting. People keep bringing them up. They're continuously like always causing issues. Well, those people, and it's not even about what damage they're causing to other people. It's also your time as a school owner. How much time and mental energy are you spending on this one problem family that you could be spending on making more money in your business?
Right. Or just one person. It doesn't, we have single adults that come in here and train. They don't have, they're not married. So, and I've had to get rid of them too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're
just not right culture fit.
No, they're not. And they're not doing the things you want. They come in here, we're a team SKC, just like a football or basketball, baseball team. You gotta have the right uniforms. You gotta have the right clothing, and you don't come in here with a ABC Dojo's karate uniform on and expect to train in here. It don't work like that.
Right.
So if you want to be, now you may come in the first class and then we tell you wear something loose fitting because you've trained somewhere else. You may come in your gi. I don't care about that. That just means that you've trained somewhere else. Now, if you sign up, that gi goes away because we have packages that you purchase when you sign up.
Yeah, and I think that regardless if you have a martial arts school or you have a different type of school, whatever your rules are, if you have an attire rule, if you have a timeliness rule, like some of our like private schools or whatever, if
Well,
there's
we have a time that we have the same thing here.
yeah, so if you're telling people that they have to show up at a certain time to start their day and they continuously come in late and you're allowing them to continue doing that, then it shows that you don't really mean what you say.
Yeah.
And that's a huge issue, especially if you're centering around some sort of discipline. Now, if you don't have rules and that's part of your culture and you're just a really laid back culture or something like that, that's totally different. I would say I and I could be totally wrong. I mean, I could be completely extremely wrong. But I would say it is much harder to get people to pay their bills on time and to stay with you for years if you don't have some sort of structure and culture that you've built.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I mean,
Because what if you just walked into a weightlifting facility, a gym, and you sign up, you pay your money, and you go in and you just start working out. Well, that's going to get old real quick because you just started something brand new and you have no roadmap. Now, if they have someone in there that's doing, privates,
personal training,
private personal training, then it's a whole nother ballgame.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll sell you that in the very beginning. You want to see some real results. We can put you on a program that's for this many weeks, and you'll see the results in this many weeks, and then we can go back and we can reevaluate and we can go to another level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people want. They want to see that transformation, so that when they come in, we have it here. You're a white belt, and eventually, if you stay long enough and you learn, of course, if you're here long enough, you're going to learn, and then eventually you test for your black belt.
Yeah,
that's a transformation over time.
Yeah, and it's just you have to set your culture. I mean, the only place that I can think of that I would say for like schools and academies is going to be more of that gym atmosphere, or it's not necessarily that you're on a structured learning path. Mm-hmm. But if you're on a structured learning path and you want to keep people around for years, and it's not a gym or a competitive type of environment, you got to have some sort of structure to keep the culture aligned, and then making sure everybody is actually adhering to that culture. And it may cause issues, with people, because not everybody that you sign up should stay enrolled.
No, and that's why you have a culture. You have the culture to set apart the people who are wanted to align with your culture and the people who don't want to align with. For instance, church. We've been in several churches of different denominations, and in certain churches, you, like in a Presbyterian church, you don't say anything. You just sit there. You don't raise your hands. You don't say amen. You don't do any of that stuff. In a Baptist church, you do a little bit more. In a church that lets everybody kind of come in, that doesn't, if you got tennis shoes on, they don't care. As long as you're coming in to learn something about Jesus, they don't mind. And, depending upon you as a person, you may be raising your hand and praising the Lord and jumping up and down, or you may be you're sitting in your seat or standing when they're singing. I mean, if it's not bothering you, that's the culture, you don't have a problem with it, that's no big deal. But when you're in a culture that has certain rules, then you can't go beyond those rules, because you're just not going to fit in.
Right. And when it comes to schools and academies, even setting out what your culture is and writing those things out is going to help you tremendously to be able to adhere to it, and to let your your students know about it, your team know about it, etc. So yeah, this has been good. I think we have may have ruffled some feathers. Those of you who are watching right now, you made it to the end of this video, comment what is the one thing that bothers you the most. Is it, or is the most challenging? Is it the families that, you just have a hard time dealing with? Is it trying to figure out your pricing? Or is it just trying to make sure that you are actually in the right location? We'd love to know. And guys, we'll see you back for the next podcast.
Yeah, guys. Have a good one.